And we're learning new details about alleged war crimes by UN aid workers in the October 7th attacks in Israel. Sources tell ABC News Israel has provided evidence they say shows some employees from the UN Relief and Works Agency for Palestine refugees were involved in the attacks. That's the main agency providing aid in Gaza. Meanwhile, Hamas and Israel appear to be closing in on a deal for a 2-month ceasefire in exchange for about 100 hostages. ABC's Matt Gutman joins me now from Tel Aviv, Israel, for more on this. Matt, an Israeli spokesperson told ABC News on a phone interview that Israel gathered intelligence about the alleged connection to terrorism through videos released by Hamas and others during the October 7th attack. And they say this is clear, unrefutable evidence that UN paid staff were involved in crimes against humanity. What more can you tell us about this, and how are people in Israel responding to that?
That Israeli official, Diane, is Mark Regev. He said that they have video from those live streams of Hamas. They have people that they say worked for that UN organization, UNRWA, who they've captured and interrogated, who told them what they did, and they have other intelligence as well. The nuts and bolts of what this is: UNRWA is the largest provider of aid to all of the Palestinians in the Middle East. In Gaza, it provides assistance to just under 2 million people. It is absolutely essential right now for the well-being of so many of the Palestinians who've been displaced, providing food and shelter and a social safety net. But we understand from multiple Israeli sources that several, up to 12, perhaps even more, paid employees of this aid organization were involved in the October 7th attack. We understand that at least some of them were pinged at, they had their phone location at the site of a massacre in Beirut where 97 people were killed. 2 of them were allegedly part of a kidnapping. Another was involved in moving weapons for Hamas, and allegedly other activities involved with the organization as well. These are massively serious allegations. Israel is saying it's the tip of the iceberg. There could be more coming out. And now we have 10 countries who've pulled their funding, or at least temporarily pulled their funding, from UNRWA until the investigation is completed. UNRWA has not denied it yet. They say that they are taking it very seriously. They fired all the employees and continue to investigate, Diane.
And, Matt, you were embedded with the Israeli Defense Forces in Khan Yunis, where much of the fighting is happening. What did you see there?
Pretty intense destruction, Diane. Everywhere you look where the IDF has been is pretty much obliterated. We did not see a house that was still habitable. Some might be. Most of the homes were razed, but they took us to a cemetery where they say Hamas had created tunnels right beneath the cemetery leading to a mosque. But from what we were able to see, not much was left of that cemetery. It had been bulldozed into these large basins. And I asked the commanding general of the southern area of the Gaza Strip about what they did there. What do you do with the bodies if you dig them up?
We don't dig the bodies out.
How do you know you haven't dug up bodies?
If we see the bodies, we'll put them aside. We'll move them aside.
I mean, are you concerned, given what just happened in the ICJ, that you're going to be accused of a war crime because you're digging up a cemetery?
I'm not digging out a cemetery. I'm digging out a military compound.
So, in case you didn't hear, what he says at the end is that I'm digging up a military compound for him and the Israeli military. The definition of a cemetery or a mosque changes when Hamas has some involvement in it. Other people might dispute that, but Israel's hunt for the tunnels in the entirety of the Gaza Strip has caused an enormous amount of destruction. That is indisputable at this point. That is, of course, as both sides are now edging ever closer to a ceasefire deal. We're told that they are getting pretty close to it. Hamas would get a 2-month ceasefire. Israel would get dozens of hostages released. Apparently, Israel's Netanyahu, its prime minister, has said that the talks have been constructive and that they could make significant progress this week, Diane.
Matt Gutman in Tel Aviv, Israel, thank you. Let's bring in human rights lawyer Zaha Hassan, a fellow at the Carnegie Endowment for International Peace, for more. Zaha, what do you make of the Israeli general's argument that destroying this cemetery should not be considered a war crime because Hamas dug tunnels underneath it?
Well, the problem that we have in Gaza is that pretty much everything and everyone has become a target, whether it's universities or hospitals or shelters for people or lines where people are getting their food and water, everything has become a target. And I think what we heard at the International Court of Justice was that, this is prima facie a case of genocide if Israel goes on and continues in this way. So I think what we really need to see today is a real different approach by Israel and how it's conducting itself in Gaza.
Now, more countries are pausing funding for the UN Relief and Works Agency amid these allegations that workers were involved in the October 7th attacks. So what happens to aid in Gaza and the people there?
So look, UNRWA employs about 15,000 staff in Gaza. These staff provide humanitarian assistance to around 70% of the people in Gaza. Most of the people that live in Gaza are refugees. So it's a very terrible decision, I think, by the U.S. and other countries to suspend aid, particularly at this time when the International Court of Justice has said that humanitarian assistance to Gaza needs to be scaled up and enter into Gaza immediately to avoid what could be a genocide. And so I think countries that are taking these decisions need to really balance the idea of these allegations against 12 people with the fact that we're facing, more than 2 million Palestinians living in Gaza with famine and starvation.
All right, human rights lawyer Zaha Hassan, thank you.
Hi, everyone. George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel. And don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.